Hello guys, welcome to this new video on how to provision an EKS cluster using Terraform. So this video we're going to be seeing how we can provision an EKS cluster using Terraform. So we're going to be going straight to the video. The video is going to be very swift and very fast. You're going to learn how you can set up your cluster seamlessly at ease using Terraform. You're going to learn how to create the scripts, which is the Terraform scripts, which is needed in provisioning the EKS cluster. And you're going to learn a lot. So you can subscribe to this YouTube channel to always watch this type of content, troubleshooting issues in cloud, DevOps, developer stacks, and all. And you can equally subscribe at the end of the video after watching the video. So we're heading straight to start right now, not to waste your time. We're going to go to the prerequisites, the requirements, and what you need for this task. So first, you need an AWS account. You need an AWS account because the cloud provider we're using in this case is AWS in this case. So in case you don't know AWS, this is how AWS looks like. Amazon Web Service. This is AWS. And what we'll be seeing next? What we'll be seeing next is the requirements. So first, let's start. What is EKS? So EKS is just a managed Kubernetes service that makes it easy. That makes it very easy to run Kubernetes on AWS without needing to install and operate your own Kubernetes control plane or node. Unlike Corpse Cluster, if you've used Corpse Cluster, that's a cluster whereby you set yourself and everything is controlled by you. Helm as well, and kubeadm as well. So with EKS, EKS is managed by AWS. So here, when in Kubernetes. So now, prerequisites. Ensure you have an AWS account that has been set up already for this project. If you don't have an AWS, go on and create an AWS account. You can check on my YouTube channel. You see a video on how to create an AWS account in less than 10 minutes. Next, you have to install and configure AWS CLI. Where do you install and configure AWS CLI? In this case, I'll be using VS Code. I'll be using VS Code. I'll be using VS Code. I'm using VS Code. So make sure AWS CLI has been configured here. For example, AWS S3 LS. Let me see if I have any buckets. Now you can see I am able to communicate. I'm able to communicate with my AWS account because I have not only installed AWS, but I have equally configured my terminal with AWS. Some people might be using Mobile Extend as the terminal. Some people might be using VS Code or different clients. So it doesn't matter. Just make sure you have AWS running. And next, you need to install Terraform. Make sure you have Terraform installed on your VS Code. Make sure you have Terraform. These are basic commands. These are basic commands. I have them installed already. These are basic commands you can get. So these are basic commands you can get and install them. If you're using a Windows device, a Mac OS, these are basic commands. You can get them. Next, once we have installed AWS CLI, I'm going to equally show you how to install the AWS CLI and also configure the AWS CLI with your credential. I'm going to show you that as well. So this is a task. And next, once we are done, we are going to install Terraform. We are going to install Terraform. I'm going to explain to you how to install Terraform on maybe macOS, Linux, and Windows. And you equally need to verify if Terraform has been installed. Let me show you, for example. Let me show you if Terraform has been installed. Terraform version. Now, do you see? Terraform has been installed. So there'll be a different video on that. If you need the video, if you haven't configured, not to waste the time, because this video is purely for EKS, there'll be a video for that. If you have not installed Terraform nor AWS CLI, it's simple. You just comment in the comment section. You'll be sent the link on how to install this. I just 2-minute videos. And next, we're going to be seeing. So once you have all of this done, you'll be asking yourself how you connect your AWS to your client. So you just need to run this command AWS configure. Once you run AWS configure, it's going to prompt for you to put your AWS access key ID. You need to put your AWS access key ID. The AWS access key ID. Okay, so when you type the AWS configure, you notice that they'll be asking for the AWS key ID, and when you put that, you'll be. Let me clear this browser. When you put enter, they'll be asking for your AWS secret access key. When you put enter, they'll be asking your default region and your output format, and you notice that you've set up everything. Now, how do you get your AWS access key? How do you get your AWS secret access key, your default region, and your output? Now, in your AWS management console, you have to click on your name, you go on your security credentials. While on your security credentials, you scroll down, you can see this is my access key, right? So you don't have to create a new access key, just click on create. I understand, and you click create. So once you create, you're going to have an access key and a secret access key. An access key can work with all regions, so you can choose the region which you work with, the region which is closer to you, if it's North Virginia, if it's Ohio, if it's in Canada, if it's in Europe, you're using London, Stockholm, Paris, whatever region. If you're in Africa, if you're using South Africa. So that is it. We have now set up. So let's go directly to the requirements which we will need exactly for this project to set up this EKS. So we have already spoken about almost everything. So now here we want the exact EKS requirements that we are going to need. So first, what are some of the requirements that we are going to be needing? Okay, so what are we going to do now? I'm going to open a new tab, which is still part of our note. And now we're going to be typing EKS requirements. Keyboard. Yes, requirements. EKS requirements. So first, what is the first requirement that we need to provision this EKS? I'll go very fast. We need a VPC. So this VPC must have a minimum of 2 to 4 subnets in different availability zones. So must have a minimum of 2 to 4 subnets in different availability zones. So 2 public and 2 private. Then equally, the VPC must be tagged. The VPC must be tagged to our cluster. VPC must be tagged. So the VPC must be tagged. And next, can you guess what we need next? We need a subnet. We need a subnet for our cluster. So subnets have to be tagged to what? Has to be tagged for our ALB. We are going to see all of this. So you're going to be seeing how all of this, the automation will be working together. So the first requirement, the first thing we'll need to provision for our EKS cluster will be the VPC. So our VPC will have at least 2 to 4 subnets in different availability zones, so they can be accessible. And you're also going to notice that we will need a subnet for our VPC. And we are also going to be seeing a type of cluster that might be owned or shared. So we are going to be seeing a type of cluster that you'll also be seeing something here, a type of cluster that is owned or shared. Very important while creating the VPC, while creating the cluster. While creating the cluster will be very, very important. And you also notice that our VPC will need DNS hostname support. So before that, our VPC will need DNS. We need a DNS name support. DNS name support. It's very, very important. And so you also make sure that your VPC has equally has how do we call that? We also need to make sure that our VPC has DNS resolution enabled. So where can you get all of this? Go on your browser. On your browser, you search for Terraform registry. Terraform, you can just say Terraform VPC. Terraform AWS VPC. You are going to see enable DNS support. So you just need to make sure DNS, yes, the DNS resolution default to true. This is not gateway to true. I'm looking for the DNS. So if you look down, you see DNS resolution. You need to make sure that it's enabled to true, not to false. Take note. So VPC DNS resolution must be enabled to true. Where can you get that? On Terraform registry. Perfect. Perfect. So now what do we need next? What do we need next? We need cluster IAM role. We need cluster IAM roles. We need our cluster IAM roles. We need our cluster IAM roles. So what will happen? EKS makes API calls to other services. It's very important. To other services. So with IAM, with Amazon EKS cluster policy is attached. So when creating an EKS cluster, we need this role. We need this Amazon EKS cluster policy role attached, so we can be able to call other services. So EKS need to have an IAM role. And what are we going to do to this IAM role? To cut it short, we will attach two policies to this role. Take note. Take note. So we are going to attach two policies to this role. You're going to be seeing that. You're going to be seeing that in this video. We're going to attach the role. You're going to, if I'm to show you the role, I'm going to show you the role now. I'm going to go to I'm going to come to IAM. I'm going to come to policies. I'm trying to simplify the video. So you're going to see EKS, Amazon EKS cluster policy. I'm going to show you the role. Amazon EKS. This policies provides Kubernetes. This policy attached to the EKS. So you're going to see the two policies, the 1313, but I'm going to be showing you the policy that we're going to use to provision the EKS cluster. So for now, I don't want to confuse you and show you the two policies, but once we provision it, I'm going to show you the policies. If you want to know policies on AWS, you navigate to IAM and you come to policies, you see permissions. If you attach administration access to this EKS, you can provision every stuff, but that's a bad practice, right? So you must attach just the role that you need. So we're going to attach policies to this role. We're going to create a role, which the EKS cluster will assume it. And once we have created the role, we're going to attach the policies to the role. Hope you understand. Okay. So once this is done, what are we going to be needing? What are we going to be needing? What are we going to be needing next? What are we going to be needing next? We're now done with creating what we call the control plane. So just with this, we are going to create our control plane, our AWS, our EKS control plane, like our master node. And now once we have created our master node, for your cluster to be complete, what do you need for node groups? We need node groups. So we have node groups which are required, like it's going to totally depend on the project you're working on, the type of node. So for the node groups, we equally need roles. We equally need roles for creating. We need roles for creating nodes. And we also need to attach policies. We need to attach policies to this role. So we're going to attach 4 policies to this role. We need to attach policies to this role. And take note, and it must be Amazon manage policies. Remember, EKS is a self-managed. Even the policies we're attaching here for the cluster, it must be Amazon. It must be Amazon manage. It must be Amazon manage policy. Take note. So we're going to attach 4 policies. You're going to see the policies. Don't worry about 4 policies will be attached. 4 policies will be attached to this role. So it's a must. So now you will notice that we have created a VPC. We'll have a script for the VPC and the subnets. We'll have a script to create the master node. We'll have a script to create the worker nodes. So the worker nodes can depend how many nodes you want, depending on your project. But when we'll be moving forward with this project, you will notice that we are going to introduce what we call an autoscaler, where an autoscaler will automatically scale the number of nodes per our project. It's going to scale the number of nodes. How many nodes do we need for this project? In high peaks, where they need a lot, where they need a lot of nodes will be created, and same as ports and all that. So we're going to be seeing that deep inside. So now just focus on how to create the EKS cluster. Focus on how to create the EKS cluster. So you're going to see those roles. You're going to see those roles. And if I was to show you the role, let me just see if I can show you the role. GitHub, the profile, repository. So EKS 2024. I'm going to make this public, even though it's public. So you're going to see admin EKS. You're going to see provider, cluster. On the cluster, you're going to see we have nodes. This is for nodes. On nodes, you're going to notice that we have the scaling size, desired 2, maximum 10, minimum 0. And equally, you're going to notice that on the cluster, let's go to EKS. On the cluster, we will have our cluster name. So this is the script that we'll be using. This is the script that we'll be using for our variables. Okay, so now you can see the role we are going to be using, the role I was telling you about. You can see this is EKS policy role, Amazon EKS cluster policy, Amazon EKS service policy. I said it was true, and for the node policy, you're going to notice that we need 4 policies: Amazon EKS worker node policy, Amazon EKS CNI policy, Amazon EC2 container registry read only, Amazon EC2 full access. So that's what, those are the policies I'm talking about. Those are the policies I'm talking about. So once we have all of these requirements, I'm going to be providing you the script. We're going to be writing the script equally. So I'm going to be providing you the script which we are going to be using to provision the EKS cluster. I'm going to show you how to get this script, how to get all of these scripts. I'm going to show you how to build this script from your modules, from your modules. You can call on Terraform. How do we get the scripts? Terraform. You can put underscore EKS module. So you can get some help from the module to build your own script from scratch. You see the input, you see what is required, the modules, every stuff that you need. You're going to be seeing resources. If you need an autoscaler, so you just need to build your script from scratch. So you're going to be seeing how we'll be taking them from Terraform registry to set up our EKS cluster. It's very important. Now, for you to use Terraform, you must have set this. You must have set this, and you must make sure that this user, if you created a user that has AWS access key, you must make sure that the user has required permission to provision a cluster. Take note. So this is my admin. This information, this is my admin user. But if you create a user, you must attach the required policies so the user can create the cluster for you. Okay. So while writing the script, you're going to notice in our script that we are going to have, I made sure that I separated it because I don't want this video to be too long. It's going to be EKS 24. So this is the first part of what we're working on. We have to provision the cluster first. You're going to see a script which we are going to use to create our EKS cluster. You're going to see a script for our node. You're going to see a script for our provider. But what do we provision first? The VPC. We need VPC first, right? You're going to see the assume roles for the nodes. You're going to see IAM roles, all the IAM roles that we need. You're going to see the provider. It's very easy for you. You can change your provider. If you're US West 2, you can change the provider. I'm going to show you how we tag the variables. These are the private and availability zones, the subnet that I told you about. These are the availability zones. You make sure you have to change them. And we'll have a script for VPC.tf. I equally included a README that is going to guide you. So I said this is an updated EKS cluster script. Make sure you provision your cluster first, provision your EKS cluster, and next provision your autoscaler. So this repository contains a script to add users in your EKS. While creating your EKS cluster, remember that the user creating this cluster will be the admin. So you need to be careful with the user. This user, I told you, the user that will be creating the cluster. You need to be very careful with the user that will be creating the cluster, because it becomes the admin, the automatic admin of this cluster. So you can add a profile in the EKS directory if you wish to use another profile to create this account. How do we add this profile? User manager. So this is a profile. This is AWS login profile, which I gave the name ZB user, EKS user, master. So these are profiles and permissions given to this profile. Take note, you can pass a profile that will be used to create. If maybe you're using your computer, but you want your manager to have, he should be the owner of this cluster, you can pass the details here, okay? So everything was made simple for you. And once we have created the cluster, I'm going to be doing a video on how to add users to the cluster. I also have a script which I've provided for you on how to add users to the cluster and to make everything simple to you. And we'll be deploying an Nginx app to test this EKS cluster. So in the next part of this video, we are going to go straight to build this script. I'll show you how to build this script, and we're going to provision the EKS cluster, not to waste much of your time. Take note that to provision your EKS cluster, you can simply go to your Terraform registry and read all of these documentations. You're going to get what you need if you're able to follow our requirements here. These are the requirements. These are the requirements. I'll be explaining more detailedly once we'll be provisioning. And also, you're going to notice that we're going to use a backend. We're going to use a backend. While provisioning this EKS cluster, we're going to use a backend. The backend might be an S3 bucket. It might be local. So we're going to use a backend so we can always read from our state file whatever we are doing. So stay tuned and see you in the next part of this video, which is the third part of the video, which we are now going straight into provisioning the EKS cluster. So I'll be explaining to you, and hopefully with the help of this video, you'll be able to provision the EKS cluster of your company based on the requirement. So at this point in time, if you've been happy with this video, you can subscribe and leave a comment if you're having some issues. Thank you, and stay tuned for the next part of the video, which is going straight to provisioning of the EKS cluster. Hello guys, welcome to the last part of this video. So currently we have explained to you the requirement to set up an EKS cluster, and now we are going to be seeing digitally how to provision an EKS cluster. So get in mind that this course is to help you that have IT knowledge to provision an EKS cluster seamlessly. So what you need actually to do right now is to go to your terminal. In my case, I'm using mobile extern. Maybe in my case, I'm using VS Code. Maybe you'll be using mobile extern or your normal PowerShell based on what you'll be doing. Okay, so I've provided a script, the EKS script for you. So this is an advanced course for those who have a little mastery already with DevOps tool. As I earlier said, the requirement is an AWS account. It's an AWS account. You must have an AWS account set up. and you must have basic knowledge of tools like Terraform. So you're already seeing how we are going to provision our cluster, and now we'll be heading straight on how you will get the script, okay? So in the link of the video, I'm going to provide to you the script which you'll be using for EKS 24. I provided the script for you. And on this EKS 24, you can see it's 8 months ago, so I've updated everything for you and I've given you detailed explanation for everything for free. So it says this is an updated EKS cluster script. Keep in mind that this script might not totally meet the requirement of what your company wants, or you might totally meet the requirement. But you as a DevOps engineer, you should be able to write a script from scratch, or you should be able to use a reusable script. So you can update the script based on what your company wants. So it says, make sure you provision your VPC first. So it gives you the steps. Make sure you provision your VPC first, then you provision your EKS cluster, and next you provision your autoscaler. So this video is going to end on provisioning of the cluster and the worker nodes. Now, if you want to learn how to add users to your EKS cluster, how to deploy application, how to do automation, how to integrate your EKS cluster to your Jenkins CI/CD pipeline or GitLab, make sure you subscribe to this channel, because eventually this video will be coming. And there are a lot of real-time projects which we do in the company, which will be posted on this channel. So make sure you subscribe so you can get these real-time projects, because only few people on YouTube will give you a totally full script that guides you on how to deploy an EKS cluster. So it says the repository also contains a script to add users. This one will be our next part of the video. This is another whole topic. Why creating your EKS cluster? Remember that the user creating the cluster must be the admin. So take note. As I earlier told you, why we'll be creating the EKS cluster, you must make sure that the user that is creating the EKS cluster is either being controlled by you or your manager. So let's head to the script before we come to read part of this. So here, if we look on the cluster, we are going to see we have a script for EKS and our node and our provider. But then we had said that we'll provision the VPC first, right? So if I click on the VPC, you're going to see we have our VPC, we have our variables, we have our provider. Let me click on provider. You see our provider will be working on US East 1. So we have everything written for us already. So I wrote all of this down, and I'm going to show you how to write, and I'm going to be explaining to you every single minute. So what I wanted to specify is that here on provider, you need to take note that if it was your manager, for example, that you're using his cluster, or he'll be the manager or you'll be the admin of the cluster, you need to add a profile. So I'm already making you understand. You need to pass what we call a profile. We might see that when adding users. So you will need to add a profile, which will prove that you are currently provisioning the EKS cluster using the profile of your manager. So hope that is clear. Because if we come now, how do you know who is going to be provisioning, who will be provisioning this cluster? How do we know? How do we know? So we had already run a command last time that AWS, we had already run a command that showed us everything on who will be provisioning the cluster. We had already run that command, okay? And now you need it, we can still get the call identity. Let me show you, this is the command. because you'll be asking that I have so many profiles integrated. How will I know? I'll just run this command, AWS STS, get call identity. So now, do you see? I'm using my root account. I'm just letting you understand this so you don't have confusion. If you pass, if while creating your EKS cluster, you pass a profile, it's going to use that profile to create a cluster. So hope that's understood. Then the second point, which I want to tell you more about, is why provisioning this EKS cluster, I have not passed what we call a backend. So in this case, we are just using our remote, our state backend. So I have not passed what we call a backend. Okay, so we are just using our Terraform.tf state. But now in your company, maybe you people might be 4 or 5 of you, your team working on this project. You will need to pass a backend, right? So you will need to create an S3 backend if you're using AWS. So we'll also be seeing that maybe when we're adding users. So those are just little things which you need to know. They are very basic things just to add backend, okay? So now, how did I get these scripts? How did I get this script? Now, this is my VPC. I'm going to explain my VPC first. On the VPC, we have our first script, which is data.cf. So while creating a cluster, there's something you need to take note of. You must have policies attached to your node, to your worker node. So there are policies which your worker nodes need to be attached. It's a must. So we have 4 policies. This is the first one, the AWS IAM policy document, the nodes policy. So this is the first policy. I think I'm having a problem on my mouse. So sorry. So this is the first policy. As you can see, this is policy for nodes. And this is policy for the cluster. Okay, now I'm going to show you the IAM rules. So now, this is the total policy which your nodes are going to be using. I told you we'll have 4 policies that must be attached to a role. I earlier explained to you that why we'll be provisioning our EKS cluster, we are going to create a role, and when we create those roles, policies will be attached to those roles, okay? And we will need just 2 policies attached to the role which we are going to be using to provision the our master node. Minutes. Which will be using to provision our master node. Okay. So now you now know that while creating an EKS cluster, we need policies. How do we get these policies? That is the question you'll be asking. Simply navigate to your AWS account. You bear with me, my mouse is totally disturbing. You come to security. Securities IAM, right? You come to policies. Now let's search. You see, we have about 1,333 policies. So bear in mind that these policies must be AWS managed policies, right? So we want to search this policy, Amazon EKS cluster policy. Bear in mind that these policies must be Amazon managed policies, right? Now, can you see? Amazon EKS policy. Let's click on this policy. So this is what it does. It allows 6 services. It allows EC2 auto scaling, ELB. So you can you can see, let's see the JSON format. Are you seeing the policy? So this is details about what that policy does. So I'm just letting you know that this was not copied from somewhere. I'm just letting you know that it is detailed and we know. So if you search all of these policies, you're going to see the meanings. You can investigate, you can go deep to know the uses of all of those policies. Like for node policy, we have Amazon full access, we have Amazon EC2 container registry with only, we have Amazon EKS CNI policy, we have Amazon worker node policy. And for the EKS cluster, we have Amazon EKS service policy. Now, you're going to see that here I have attached policies, all of those policies to the node group. And I pass what they call variables. So don't get confused. Don't get confused. Variable is another different topic. Don't get confused. So this is what we call variables. You can pass everything in your variable. For example, like what we just did, the public CIDR, the availability zones. Me, I'm working on US East 1, so it depends on the region. Make sure you edit the script per region. And also, you know what provider means. Provider is the region, right? AWS, maybe you're using another cloud system, Azure or GCP. But this time we're using AWS and we're using our version. You can always use the latest version, okay? If this video is outdated, you can use the latest version. And here we have our output. We have our output, which we are just referencing. This is just referencing those LN and those IDs, which you see in data and in IAM role. We are just referencing. You can deep dive. So you can deep dive. So this is just the script for our VPC, right? So we provision the VPC first. You know, the VPC is the networking part of our EKS cluster. We cannot go and be provisioning a cluster without the VPC. So we'll provision the VPC first. We'll have a folder for the VPC. And next, we'll provision our cluster. On cluster, I'm going to click on EKS.tf. You'll see a very simple script for our EKS. We'll be giving that name demo. We'll have our role ARN as well. And we'll have the subnets that are attached already. Note the same. On our node, we wrote the script. So we have a node group which we use which will create our VPC. And in the node groups, remember, we'll be passing what we call an autoscaler, right? So an autoscaler can always scale automatically for us. So you see on the scaling part, we'll have desired 2, maximum 10. Maybe your company might have desired 10, maximum 100, or maximum 1,000, desire 500. Okay, so make sure you edit it your project requirement. And instant type here is T2 micro. Maybe you're using T2 medium or anyone. You can edit that. You can edit that, and you also have to reference all of this. You have to reference them if you're using variables, unless you can just do it the way that pleases you. Now, if you have to get this script, I wrote the script from scratch by taking some of my scripts from the Terraform registry, right? So, as an engineer DevOps or a cloud, you should know how to get the script right. You should know how to get the script and edit. So Terraform provides everything for you. Unless you now want to be writing everything from scratch to scratch, which you might still need to copy some things, okay? So you see, this is, you just need to type EKS or AWS EKS Terraform, you are going to have a whole documentation on the Terraform registry. You will have input, like the type of things you want to be adding in your script. Maybe there are different things to be added on the README. The README will be guiding you on whatsoever you have to add. It'll be giving you the sample scripts on how you can edit and modify. Take in mind that you see, you also have the node group. So it has everything attached, the VPC, the subnet. And if, for example, you do not want to actually use these models, if you don't want to use these models, they also have a source, which is GitHub, right? They also have a source. You can click on this source. You'll see they have a GitHub. They have a GitHub. They have a GitHub where you will get all of this script. Where you get all of this script. They have a GitHub. You can plug this GitHub in your environment. You can also type AWS EKS Cluster. I'm just showing you how you can get the scripts and modify them per your company requirement. You get, for example, Stack Simplified. So you're going to see here, they have EKS Cluster script using EKS CTL. I can also go back to my environment. I have a lot of, this is not the only script. If you go to my name, you come to repository, you also see AWS EKS Kubernetes. Can you see that? You can also get that from my environment. So you can also get the exact script which you'll be using to deploy. So you can either create your cluster using EKS CTL, but in this case, we'll be using Terraform, okay? We'll be using Terraform. Let me just show you a few more things. We'll be using Terraform. Okay, so yeah, you're going to get some nice scripts, which is very important for you. So make sure you're able to exploit all of these resources, which have been given free to you by the internet. Make sure you exploit all of these resources. It's very important. So Terraform registry will guide you on how to get these scripts, okay? And how to, this is Terraform on AWS EKS. This is another script. Can you see the scripts I have? I have all of them, okay? I have all of them. This is when we'll be doing users. I'm going to show you all of this. You're going to see everything from scratch. Okay, perfect. So now, let me not waste much of your time. Let me go back to the script, which we are currently using, which I've put a lot of description for you. EKS 2024. So what do you have to do? You have to copy this code, right? Copy this code. Once you copy this code, what will you do? You come to your environment, to your browser, and you do git clone. Git clone. So you also need to know git, and you paste. Okay. So if I click this, it's going to clone, right? I've already cloned it, so that's why I don't want it. You're going to have this environment. You're going to have this environment, and what do you do? Once you git clone, you're going to EKS demo, okay? So you do ls, you seed into your EKS demo, EKS dash demo ls. What do we say we're provisioning first? The VPC, right? You seed into the VPC. ls. So when you click here, let me try to put my terminal a bit down. Perfect. So when you click on VPC, let me close the cluster. When you click on VPC, you're going to see what I already showed you. Our data.tf, IAM role, output.tf. Everything was, I set everything from scratch, okay? Provider.tf, variable.tf, you can set yours. So I'm just showing you how to provision an EKS cluster. And if you check on our availability zone, you should have at least 2 availability zone or more, okay? Have at least 2 availability zone or more. Now, you can always use you can always use what is provided to us. You can always use your AI, right? If you have troubleshooting issue, so some engineers will claim to you that they don't like to use AI, but I'll tell you that they are experts in going to troubleshooting zones like medium, okay? So AI was provided to us easy. You can just tell AI that, just listen, just see the magic here. Just see the magic. Right. A basic Terraform script to deploy an EKS cluster in US is 1. In US is 1. Write the script for the VPC first. Write the script for the VPC first. And write a script for the worker nodes, which has an autoscaler attached to it. So enter. Oh, let me copy. I think I've arrived my maximum, so I'm going to close, open back. So I'm going to type it here, and bam, sending it, okay? So now, you with no prior experience, you need to sample, right? Somebody will tell you, oh, you don't have to use AI. Let me tell you, recruiters prefer engineers that can do the work. If AI can be your backbone or your assistant, it doesn't mean you don't know, right? But this is an assistant I'm showing to you, which you can edit the script for your project. So you don't depend on this, but it should be something that can help you troubleshooting. So you see, we have a script for our EKS cluster. We have a script for our worker nodes. It came with the auto scaling. You can edit the desired and the minimum. Depends on, you have the resource. It has all the policies that will be attached. So you can see the first one was the VPC. So this script will be creating you the whole VPC, creating the VPC. So if you are given a requirement by your company, what do? You're going to see it. You start with that sample. You make sure all of them are proper and clean like mine. You set your VPC first, your master node and your worker node. and you provision your VPC first. In my case, I'll provision the VPC first. So I've seen the VPC. So what will I do? Do Terraform init. So I told you that you need to know the basic Terraform commands. Terraform init, Terraform plan, Terraform validate, Terraform apply. You need to know what they do. So Terraform plan. So before watching this video, let me first do Terraform validate to check my configuration. If it's valid. Perfect. My configuration is valid. Terraform plan. So this is not a course that takes you from scratch. This is a course that shows you straight to the point how to do what you need to do. So I'm not here to show you clearly from the start, from A to Z. I'm here to show you what to do. So it says what is going to, only for the VPC is going to provision 24 resource and will be known after applied, okay? So let's check some of the stuff that will be created. A VPC will be created, a site will be created, default variable, security group. So it's going to attach a lot of things. So this script is going to really help you. This is a script that companies actually use. You're going to see it showing all the details of everything that will be created. While provisioning your own, you can check what will be created, the subnet, the route table, everything. You can see AWS route table association. You can check all of this, okay? So let's not waste time because I've already delayed a lot of your time. So I'm just going to do Terraform apply. You can do Terraform apply dash auto approve, but I'm just going to do Terraform apply and type yes, okay? So you can do Terraform apply dash auto approve. I'll type my value yes. And bear in mind that it might take up to 8 minutes. About 8 minutes to create just the VPC. So now once my VPC will be created, once this VPC will be created, what will I create next? My cluster. So as best practice, it was good that we set up an S3 bucket and secure this S3 bucket with DynamoDB lock state or with what we call the KMS key. So when we'll be adding users, we're going to destroy this cluster or we don't need to destroy it. We're just going to add an S3 bucket and push all of this and push all of this state file in an S3 bucket, okay? So that's what we're going to do. That's what we are going to do. So this will help you as an engineer to go straight to the point. If you've been having problem provisioning an EKS cluster, you're in the right place. If you have more issues, you can comment in the comment section. If you want a one-on-one, you can also comment in the comment section. If you want us to work on this EKS cluster one-on-one. So the truth is, companies will hire those that are good cloud engineers, DevOps engineers, good developers, but someone who equally knows how to use AI to get what he wants will be prioritized more than you. I'm telling you the truth. They won't like to hear that, but I've been part of a recruitment team, but they will prioritize because they know if this man is in trouble, he can navigate to the internet, and AI is a sure source now, and he's going to get what he wants and solve the issue. At the end of the day, what we want done is the job done. We are not here to challenge whatsoever, okay? So don't let anyone tell you that using AI as an engineer is a crime. It's not a crime. So now, next, we're going to seed into what we have created our VPC, we'll seed into the cluster. So this is a whole reminder course for EKS Cluster. And you're going to be seeing how we'll add users. You're going to see how we'll edit the config map. You're going to see how we'll add more permission to some users, read, write. You're going to see all of that. So you must be part of this. Subscribe, share this video to your friends that have issue with EKS Cluster. If they want a one-on-one with us, we will help them with their projects, guide them so they can be the best in their company. So they can always be the best. So this is our EKS cluster, our one Terraform plan, okay? So it says what? AWS EKS cluster demo will be created. And what next? AWS EKS node group will be created, okay? So I'm here to show you straight to the point, not to start turning you around, making the video long. I'm giving you what you need for that project that you have been given. Terraform, next we did Terraform plan. We did not do Terraform validate by its valid. So next will be Terraform apply. Dash auto approve if you want. So mine, I'm just doing Terraform apply. And I'll type yes, okay? So now we're provisioning the cluster. Provisioning the cluster and the worker nodes. We're provisioning the cluster and the worker node. So this can take up to 8 minutes. At times or more, or even 15. Or even 15. So if you have issue, if you have never known how to edit the config map, if you have never known how to add users, because the next question will be, but how do I add users to this cluster? My manager asked me to create this EKS using his profile. I already told you that in the provider, below the provider, you can just go to Terraform. You're going to see the Terraform registry. You're going to get the script on how to add a profile, right? You add your profile, so you use your manager's profile to provision the ticket, and later you can also be one of the admins while your manager is also an admin, and you're going to also be seeing how you can add users to your EKS cluster. Maybe you have users like James, Mike, Elizabeth, Kelly. All of them are users that work, they're engineers that work. You want to know how to add them. And are you just adding them? No. You want to give them permission. You have to give them permission based on what they'll be doing. So you're also going to be seeing that, right? That is interesting. And you're going to see how we'll be deploying an application that works like Netflix. You're going to be seeing, we won't be deploying a simple Nginx application, no. We'll be deploying a real-time application so you can actually see as it works. So we'll be deploying a Netflix app that just works like a movie app that works like Netflix. And you'll be seeing that the real time. And after that, you'll be seeing our video is going to be continuing. Once we have done that, we're now going to show you how to set up the CI/CD pipeline from A to Z, the continuous integration and continuous deployment, and integrate it to our EKS cluster till the application will be deployed to the final users. So if I were you, I will subscribe to this channel and share, because you're going to be having everything you need. Everything you need for a complete DevOps and cloud engineer. So let's go to AWS, why this is creating. Let me type VPC. Let me see if our VPC already created. Our VPC already created, right? You know, we created a VPC first. So we're in AWS. A question is going to come. Can I create this cluster manually? The answer is yes. But as an engineer that wants to do things rapidly and in a more automation way, should you be creating VPCs manually? Should you be creating VPCs manually? So I'll show you the VPC that I just created. This is it. Forget about the Jenkins VPC. This is for a different project. So this is the VPC. This is the VPC which we'll be using. It comes with the subnets, you see. It comes with the subnets, the VPCs. Let me scroll down. Come to the subnet. Sorry, I went to EU. Let me go back to US East 1. Sorry for that little confusion. Okay, because so these are the VPC main. Okay. So there was a little confusion, but it's fine. Now you see our VPCs, right? US East 1, US East 1B. You see our routables. You see our internet gateway and that gateway. Let me go back to that script, okay? If I come back to VPC on data.tf, I just want to show you everything in real time. VPC.tf, okay? So this was the VPC that we were creating, okay? So first, we created the VPC, internet gateway, which I just showed you, elastic IP. We created a NAT gateway. We created private subnets. We created public subnets. We created private route tables. And if we come on variables, if you're not able to see, you notice that this is the availability zones, US is 1, US is 1B. So that's why when you come to when you come to our subnets, you see US is 1A and US is 1B. Okay, so this is the VPC talking to our 4 subnets, our 4 subnets talking to our 3 route tables, our 3 route tables talking to our internet gateway and our NAT gateway. Okay, so if you are to provision it with your hands or to create them manually, it might take some time. Then you saw that with a click, we're able to do that. Let me know if you have issue writing your scripts. If you have issue writing your script, you can keep them in the comment section. You can write in the comment section. I'm going to help you on how to write these scripts very easily, okay? So let's check EC2 whether if some of the nodes have been provisioned already. Check on instance. On instance. So it's loading. So do we have any instance in US East 1? We have no instance, right? We have no instance. So I'm going to check. Let's check. It says creating node groups. Okay, it says EKS cluster has been created already. I'm showing you real time, okay? So let's search EKS. Where am I searching EKS? In US East 1. Check my region, US East 1. Don't go and enter in a different region after you say, oh, I'm not seeing my EKS. Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. So if you now check, you will see we have the cluster demo that I just created. We have 2 node health issue, but it's going to be okay once the cluster has been created. So this is the cluster that have been created already. So resources, you're going to see all the resources that are attached to this cluster compute. Now, 2 instances have been created. Don't bother, it's because the cluster have not yet it's still provisioning. Can you see? Still provisioning. That's why you see you're seeing this not red, but can you see? Would you have worker nodes that have already been created? Networking, you will see our VPC. This is our VPC, see our subnet. Everything has been automatically attached to this cluster. Do we have some add-ons? Not yet. So we're going to be seeing all of this. So if I go back to EC2, you notice that we now have two instances running. But when we earlier checked, there was nothing running, right? Can you see? We have 2 instances, it's still initializing. Now, we have created our EKS cluster successfully. We take some few minutes to initialize. And you're going to be seeing that. So, have we created our EKS cluster successfully? Yes. As a DevOps engineer, this should be like a cheat sheet for you to provision an EKS cluster for your company, because my script is up to date, not unlike the script. Do you see again any health issue? Can you check? It was showing -2, but do you see any health issue? I told you that was because it was still provisioning, right? So that is it. On the resources, you're going to see our ports. We have 6 ports. You're going to see all type of deployment, stateful set, daemon set, replica set, job, cron jobs, storage, everything. So this is a very simple video that will not take you more of your time to provision a cluster. And I hope to see you in our next video. Our next video will be talking about adding users to this cluster. We'll be explaining again some more important concepts that you need to take note of, just the ones you need in your work. And you're going to be seeing how we add users, how we edit the config map. It's very important to know how to add users and how to add permission and how to create namespace. You're going to see how we're going to do that full automation. And once that is done, you're going to be seeing how we're going to be deploying an application into this cluster, a Netflix type of application. And if you continue subscribing and watching our videos, you're going to see how we're going to integrate our EKS cluster to our CI/CD pipeline. So that'll be a full automation, right? So we're going to run this script, and through Jenkins is going to provision this EKS cluster for us without us running the Terraform commands. Without us running the Terraform commands, Jenkins will run these commands for us. So a pipeline will start from Git, where we are going to just have our let's say we're just going to have this script on Git. Git will be associated to Jenkins via a webhook. And once the pipeline starts, we're going to have a first pipeline that just provisions our EKS cluster for us. So we won't be running the Terraform commands. The Terraform commands will be run by Jenkins itself. That's full automation. So we won't be running in manually Terraform in a Terraform plan, no. So it's Jenkins that will do this automation for us, or GitLab. Okay. And once the first stage of the pipeline, our EKS cluster have been created, you're now going to see the second part of our EKS cluster of our CI/CD pipeline, where we'll be having different tools like Maven, SonarQube, Docker, see the deployment process. Okay. So if you like this video, subscribe, and hope this video helps you to deploy your EKS cluster successfully. See you in our next video. Bye-bye.